Hello everyone, and welcome to the Brickformula review of Mega Bloks set BFS04244. It almost sounds like a serial number, but anyway, this is for ages 6 and up, and this is the RX-78-2 Gundam. And this is a licensed set brought to you by Bandai. And here in the front we can see the RX-78 in action, which is pretty cool looking. On the side here we see him again, which is pretty nice. And on this side we have the parts list, and that comes out to a total of 120 pieces. On the back here we see the block frame system, and all the neat things that you can do with it. You can expand it with the expansion block, and that'll get you the Mark II as an example. And with the Zeta Gundam, you can also build all sorts of Gundams, which is pretty cool. And so for now, we'll just take a look at this one, and here we go. At first glance, it looks pretty decent for a basic model. But because it's pretty basic, you really can't be too critical about the way it looks because you're sacrificing some of the details for an easier playability. But despite having said that, I still don't really like the way they designed the shoulder pads. Because for one, I don't know of any Gundams where the shoulder pads look like that, especially the RX-78. This is supposed to be a little bit lower so that it covers the ball and socket joints on the arms. But then again, I can understand why they designed it that way, because if this was any lower, it would really limit the range of motion for the arms. Because they have the shoulder pads mounted on a hinge piece. It's not like the plastic model kits where it's actually attached to the upper arm and would move with the arm. So you'll have to forgive the way they designed the shoulder pads because this was meant to be basic and simple. But let's take a closer look at the head, which I think they did a pretty decent job for that. Obviously you have to make a custom part for it because if you ever try to build your own Gundam, you'll know that the head is one of the most challenging parts to build because of the amount of details that are in it and your limited use of parts, and depending on whatever scale you're building in, it's a real pain. So this is not bad. It looks decent. Although I do find it to be quite polygonal. It kind of reminds me of the old N64 graphics. This part right here is a rubber molding, this way you don't really poke yourself. But anyway, let's move on to the main features, which is the frame system, which is a really cool design. It's really sturdy and durable. In fact, let's take a closer look at the way they made the joints real quick. One of the weird things you're going to notice right away about the ball and socket joints is that the sockets are actually separate from the brick. And it's not attached by studs or anything. Instead they have this piece right here that inserts to this little area over here. So that means it can only go in there. So why even separate in the first place? And you can't really take it back out either because this is a really solid piece too. You can probably try to get it out, but you'll definitely damage the brick in doing so. So we'll just slide that in there. And there we go. See? There's no reason to take that out. And if you look at the instruction book, you notice that they have you put in this red rubber pellet inside, which at first I thought was a great idea. My original assumption was that it would add more friction to the ball and socket joints, but it actually doesn't do a whole lot because I have tried it without the rubber pellet and the friction is about the same. And if you notice, they have you use this green tool to stick it inside, which is also pointless because once you slide it in there, it comes right back out. So ideally you just want to put it all the way in and then just wiggle it a little bit just to get it off. I think it's more effective to use this side of the tool and just make sure it's really in there. So as you can see, this is actually kind of pointless too. It's only good for taking it out, which you don't really need to do that either. But there we are, and you'll find this in pretty much in all of the major joints of the model, such as the ankle, the knees, shoulders and elbow, and the neck. Now, as cool as the frame system is, the only thing I would change about it is that they should have made it in white. Especially if you knew you were designing something where the frame system is mostly exposed, like it is the way in the arms and the thighs and the inner legs. Because if it was white, it would look a lot better. It would look more complete. And it would actually make more sense to keep the sockets as separate pieces because those would stay as black and the whole thing overall would look pretty good. But no. But anyway, it's time to show you guys what this looks like all around. And we'll start with the front. You'll also notice that this thing doesn't have any tile pieces, which this could really benefit from. See, like this could have been a tile, and especially over here, and you can use that to cover the thighs, which is probably something you should do too, because when you move this upwards, you'll see that the studs kind of get caught in the flaps here, which is a little bit annoying, especially when you're trying to pose it. And I can only imagine it'll be more frustrating when you're trying to play with it too. And as I mentioned earlier, this is mostly pretty durable. The bricks are pretty solid and they don't fall apart easily, except for the flaps, because they're only attached like that. See, that's actually pretty lame. So that's going to fall out after you move it out quite a bit. But anyway, we can use more tiles here on the chest. Actually, this would really benefit with a pair of a pair of grills. I guess it's all the same. They both would look pretty good around the chest, but there we go. See? That would look much better. Anyway, here's the view of the side. I have to say, this is actually a pretty good sized model. It's actually about 9 inches tall the way it is right now. I was actually expecting something smaller. So that's actually a plus. And here's the view of the back. Now the most disappointing thing about the back is that we don't have any thrusters for the jetpack. So I guess this guy's not going to do any flying anytime soon, which kind of blows. They also could have used some extra parts just to make it look a little bit bigger and to lock down these brackets here. Because they have these mounted at an angle for the beam sabers, which is cool. But they come off pretty loosely, so I think they could have fixed that and it would have looked better. And here's the view of the other side. I do like the fact that we get this really cool looking beam saber. It's made of a solid plastic and it's pretty strong. And what I like about it is that it comes pretty straight. It's not bent or anything. The only thing is they should have added another one too, since we have another beam saber in the back there. But then again, they should have also added a shield that you can customize, because a lot of the Gundams come with a shield. And that would have been a nice touch to go with this one too, besides a gun and a bazooka. But oh well, I guess you'll just have to get the expansion set to work on that one. But anyway, overall it's a pretty good model. It poses really well, full range of motion with just about every joint, and I like it despite the flaws that it has. So now we'll move on to the recommendations. Overall, as much as I like this set in particular, I can't really say that I recommend this as a standalone set. And there's a few reasons. For one, let's take a look at the value. We're only getting 120 pieces, and if memory serves right, this is a Japan exclusive, and it was released in 2009. So obviously it's been discontinued, and the only way to get it is through eBay and Amazon. And right now the current listings go as low as $30, which would include the shipping, to as much as $100. So it really depends on how you look at it, but I would say it's not worth it. So the only reason to get it is if you're a collector, or is if you're looking to build your own Gundam. And that leads me to the play value, which is pretty good. You have to remember that they mostly emphasize the block frame system, and the fact that you can just add parts and build your own Gundam. So I think that idea is pretty cool. So if you get this as a standalone set, you would have to resort to using Lego parts, or maybe some of your extra Mega Bloks parts, just to expand on this one, which might offend some of the purists out there. So with that said, you're actually better off just getting all 3 of the Mega Bloks block frame system sets, which is this one. And we also have the Zeta Gundam. There we go. And there's also the expansion block. Now you can probably get all 3 for roughly, on average, around 130. So try not to go over that, because that's like my break-off point. If you guys remember when I reviewed the mock created by Toriaris for the V2 Gundam, that one, if you were to build from scratch out of Lego, it would run you around $160 to $180 worth of parts there. And since you're building in this scale, this is actually more cost effective. And that's really the only good reason as to why you want to get this set. And that sums up my review. I hope you guys enjoyed this show, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you for watching.